Shalom. Al halalim la Yahweh, Bahasham Yahweh Shai, Bahasham Rakakwadash. Double honors to our elder apostles, elder bishops, elders of Great Millstone, who are the men of the Lord, in the spirit and power of Yahweh Bahasham Yahshai, who are our teachers, under the spirit and power of Yahweh Bahasham Yahshai on planet Earth. Okay, to wake up the elect, which they are doing so beautifully. Okay, they are our elders. They're the real men of the Lord. Okay. Now, if you're sincere and you want to know about this truth, whether you're an Israelite or a heathen, okay, for you heathens, you want to know your outcome, keep watching the men of the Lord. For you Israelites, if you're sincere and you're part of that number to be awakened, okay, because this isn't no game, this isn't entertainment, this is serious business, man, very serious business. All right, so if you're interested, if you are not interested, if you want to, if the Lord has woken you up and is knocking on your head, saying, watch the men of the Lord, I suggest that you do. All right. Nevertheless, double honors to our elders of Great Millstone, and shalom and peace, and peace and blessings to the 144,001 and shalom also to the prophets of the Great Millstone too. Okay, shalom to them, hearty shalom to the prophets, that work alongside our elders and apostles of Great Millstone. Double honors to them, and shalom to the prophets of that body, and shalom to the 144,001. May peace and blessings be upon your households. Okay, and the spirit of endurance. Now, I got hip to this news. Obviously, I'm always checking out news, world news, things of that nature, just to see what time it is. One of our elders from the UK, I believe, I think is Elder Ramah, who's another one of the elders of Great Millstone, prophet here, UK based. I believe he brought out the news. If it was him. Oh, I guess I saw his video first anyway, nevertheless. So, I didn't watch the video, I just saw the title, and it's interesting. It's interesting in terms of, just 40, I'm in my late 40s, so just over 50 years ago, there used to be punishment in schools. I think you call it corporal punishment. Let me just go here, the definition of these terms. 1 second. Definition of corporal punishment. Caning or flogging. Okay. What the hell is flogging? Okay, I can understand caning. What the hell is flogging? What is flogging in corporal punishment? Flogging in the context is the act of beating someone's body with a whip or similar implement such as a rod or a switch. Well, yeah. Shit, I got that at home from my dad. Okay, so corporal punishment was lawful in the schools. Okay. I mean, I joined, when I started school, which was the early 80s, late 70s, early 80s, when I started what you call nursery or kindergarten or whatever. In the 80s, when I started school, when I went to what they call, the children say big school, when I started school after kindergarten and all that and nursery, at that time, that's when corporal punishment left. A lot of people, a lot of private schools were still doing it. The well-to-do who would send their children to school, they used to have corporal punishment. But for the most part, countries around the world, because when I was at school, recent immigrants from different parts of the world, they used to say they still have corporal punishment, especially from the East, the India and certain countries in Africa, they still had corporal punishment. And a lot of the children used to say they put books, in their underwear to cover their backside. So when they're getting whipped with a switch on their backside by a teacher, it doesn't hurt them, or they get it on their back or their hand. That's how serious it got. And I can understand where certain adults, that get off on beating children just for the sake of it because they want to, they've got some sick mentality. That is out of order. There is sick people out there. And no parent wants a third person, another individual, to hit their child, especially you being an Israelite, right? A person of color as well, and you get some cracker to hit your child, that's not or heathen, any other heathen, that's not on, no parent likes that, because we're not in a righteous world where, as they say, I think what do they say? It takes a whole town to raise a child, or something along those lines, where you can, we're not in a world where you can trust people, you know. But nevertheless, corporal punishment was out the window by the time I started school. So people that are in their mid 50s, late 50s, early 60s onwards in the UK and different parts of the world will remember times when there was corporal punishment still in schools. But also, they want to ban total smacking of children, all right, physical punishment. Because campaigners have made a fresh call for laws to ban smacking of children in England. Now, this timeout shit, all right, putting children in the corner, okay, it's got its place. It kind of works, because I remember being in school, the teacher would say to you, go stand in the corner with your face against the wall for 20 minutes or some shit like that. I remember. That's got its place, especially for a younger child, because you don't want to lay your hands on a younger child because they're delicate, their bones, their body's delicate. All right, you could do that. You could raise your voice a few decibels. You could raise your voice in volume. You know, there's many methods. You don't have to go to smacking a child straight away. There's talking to a child. All right, but there's levels to this thing. Okay, there's warning levels, and smacking your children in the right way stops them from doing stupid fuck ups. Okay, smacking children the correct way with love by their father, and even the mother to a certain degree, depending on the age of the children. All right, um, is lawful pursuant to the scriptures. Yahweh Shem Yashai does not frown upon that. The Lord wants you to smack your children as and when required. It's a wake up call. Somebody's trying to get your attention that all hell's about to break loose, and they're trying to talk to you, but they're not listening to you. But if you run up to them and smack them across the face, or shake them, let's just say shake them, that gets it through to their skull quicker and faster, and leaves a long-lasting imprint where they remember not to fuck up or pay attention. Now, with children, all right, um, all right, it's a delicate matter. Now, discipline is done lawfully. Now, your children growing up, you can smack them on the back of the legs, you can smack them on the bottom, which is a backside. You can use a switch, you can use that on the legs. I would, suggest areas where you don't cause damage. You don't hit them on the bones and damage their legs or elbows or whatever, or pull their arm. That's wrong. That's just straight up, demonic behavior, man. There's a certain method of smacking your children. All right, there's a certain etiquette and manners to it as well, where they feel the pain, but it's done in a correct way and the right amount, so they know that I need to listen to father. I need to listen to mother. All right. Now, we already live in a very faggy world, in a very soft world, in a world where, you know, if you look at the 70s and 80s and 90s, children pretty much were more gung ho. They were more, climbing up trees and jumping from trees. And, boys wanted to have a fight. They had a disagreement. What we used to do at school was we used to leave school at 3 or 3:15 from what I remember. We used to meet in our local park. All right. Okay. We'd say no kicking to the face, none of that. All right. Everything else is okay. No kicking to the face, no headbutts or whatever. You fight it out. You slug it out. Take any rings off or whatever. Anything that you're carrying weapon wise. Be a knuckle duster. You put that down and you fight it out. And I remember that from the age of maybe 9, 10 onwards. All right, you'd knuckle it up. Now these days, you smack a child, or one of these children get into a fight. What happens? They cry like a bitch. They come back with a Stanley knife or some kind of box cutter, right? And they try and stab up the person that tried to, that hit them, which is basically, if you're being bullied, I can understand that, right? Where a person can go buck wild, but that's not the way to do it. What you should do is, learn basic jab and reverse punch and keep your guard up, and learn to turn that switch on to defend yourself. And also tell your father, tell your brother, do these things. Now, these youngsters get smacked nowadays. What happens? They come back with a gun and try and shoot up the school. Okay, they carry a box cutter. And then instead of just teaching the enemy or the bully a lesson, which is basically boyish or childish behavior, which boys do, right? It's the testosterone jumping in youngsters. And even girls, talk shit to each other. All right. And they start pulling hair and shit. Okay. Now, some of these, some girls are delicate for the most part, but you got some fucking manly bitches these days. And then you got the men or the boys or the men even that smack each other. They turn into bitches because we're in a very soft world. And this is meant to be the same young people that are meant to join the army when they start actually doing the draft. Okay. In the UK and America. And they're soft as fuck. They're a very soft generation. All right. Not very manly at all. All right. Very soft generation. And this kind of, timeout generation is reason why you got so many YNs. The man not being in the house, no corporal punishment, no discipline, no fear. We fear Yahweh Bashim Yashai, right? Didn't the Lord punish us? Did not the Lord Yahweh Bashim Yashai punish us? But aren't we the chosen? The heathens are, from pursuing to 2nd Ezra 6 verse 54, are pieces of shit. They're like spittle coming out of a vessel. They're like spit. They don't mean nothing. They're like a loogie. They're like gob. All right? They ain't nothing. We Israelites are the chosen. Look what Lord Yahweh Bashim Yashai does to his own. Why? Because we fucked up. And we rightfully deserved it. So do you think the same fear we have for our Father in heaven, Yahweh Bashim Yashai, our Father and our King, the same fear we have, do you not think that on this earthly realm, children should have a healthy, lawful fear of their earthly father, and their mother as well to a certain degree? All right, the Lord has given the balance. The father for the harshness and the love, and the mother for the mollycoddling and the hugs and the love when daddy does smack you upside the head. So you got the discipline, then you got the sugar from mommy. There's a balance in this. That's why both parents are essential, even though the father alone can do the job better compared to a mother alone. This is a balance. The Lord is a balanced power. All right? Children need that discipline. Okay? Now, all you're doing is creating a bunch of emotional children that are not going to be disciplined. They can do whatever they want. That's why you got this new age bunch of faggot YouTubers that think that they can go around playing games and doing these pranks against complete strangers, against bouncers. They find out the hard way. Soft, what's it called? A hard head makes a soft ass, right? They do pranks with your strangers in the public. They take people's food away from them in public and think that's okay to do that as they're walking down the high street or the strip. And then when somebody comes up to them and smacks him in the face, then they cry, "Oh, it's a prank! It's a prank, yo! It's a prank! It's a prank! It's a prank!" That ain't no fucking prank, man. All right? This is you Gen Zs. All right? And Mike Tyson's right about that statement he made about, people think that, I don't know how he said it, but paraphrasing or saying it in my own terms, he's basically saying that people think it's comfortable to sit behind a keyboard and talk shit or talk shit from far away when they get pissed off. And a lot of these people, when they get punched in the face, then they find out what time it is. Then they go back to their reset. Then they're basically rebooted. Start turning the phone on and off. The phone starts working correctly again. Then you come back to your factory settings when you get smacked. All right. So in a lawful sense, when a father smacks you, it's necessary, man, because the Lord has ordained it. Hence the reason it's lawful. All right. You can not smack your children. Guaranteed your children are going to turn into some bug outs. Soft, faggoty, bug outs, feminine, all right, emotional, all right. That's how they behave. They behave like, you see women behave, right? How emotional they get when they don't get their thing, their way. How much more a guy who's 6'2", 6'3", or even 5'10", 200 pounds, all right, with strength and energy. And he's a so-called man. But this motherfucker is emotional like a woman. You know, it's like fucking having a bull loose in a China shop. What do you think that's going to happen to the China? It's going to fucking be destroyed. All right? Let me just go to a scripture because Proverbs 13, verse 24. All right. He that spareth his rod hateth his son, but he that loveth him chasteneth him betimes. Okay? Who that doesn't give their son licks or their child licks, right? You hate your child because they're not learning right from wrong. All right? An example, your your children's friends come over to play with your child in the back garden. They're playing soccer or they're playing volleyball or whatever they're doing, right? Now your child does something, I don't know, does something incorrect, or uses certain language, or behaves in a certain way, or says something which isn't right, or does something really, I don't know, I'm not going to make some, does something really incorrect. Okay, now your neighbor's child doing it, you can say, okay, Tommy, don't say that. That's not very nice, you know. But your own child saying it, what are you going to do? You're going to shout at them. You're going to reprimand them. You might even grab them and shake the shit out of them, you know. Not shake the shit out. You know what I mean? Give them a little shake, you know. You might even smack them around the back of the legs with your hand, or on the bottom, depending on their age, on their backside, right? Why? Because you're trying to get it through to them, because you care about them, you know. It's like, you got like two plates of food. Okay, the cake, the custard, the ice cream, that all tastes great. The candy tastes great. But is it good for you all the time? There's a balance in this thing. But your child wants it, right? What are you going to do? Are you going to say give in? No. You're going to say no, eat your food first, and you can have, you know, uh, you can have cake and ice cream right after you have your meal, as soon as you finish everything on your plate. You know, there's a structure to this thing. There's discipline, all right? Because if you don't give your child licks, they're going to turn that into a bug out. Most men, most men that have a father in the house that get disciplined, those children stay out of prison, stay out of jail, all right, for not being a YN. They get disciplined. Most YNs, when you look at them, guaranteed, check out their family history, analyze them. There'll be no father. And if there's a grandfather, he's too old to discipline him, because the grandfather was very old when his grandson was born or granddaughter was born. And then as they get up in age, at hitting 18, 19, the grandfather or grandmother, oh, sorry, the grandfather is like in his damn near 80 years old. You know, there's no man in the house. But the wisdom is there, but the children are not taking heed, you know. But most parents, most Israelite families that have a father in the house, right, those children grow up somewhat sensible, okay? They know right from wrong. That discipline, that shouting, that little whack across the ear hole, that little whack across the back of the head, that little whack on the backside, that little switch on the backside or the back of the legs, you know, is necessary. It's definitely necessary, okay, to keep your children in line. All right. Deuteronomy 21 and 18. Okay, this is what the Lord said. Okay, the Lord says, basically I read already what the Lord said in Proverbs. Now let's go to Deuteronomy 21. If a man have a stubborn and rebellious son, which will not obey the voice of his father or the voice of his mother, and that when they have chastened him, he will not hearken unto him. Let's go to the definition of chasten. What is the definition of chasten? Rebuke, have restraining or moderate effect. Let me go to the definition. Chasten means primarily to discipline or correct, with aim of moral or spiritual improvement. Okay? Example, it's a concept rooted in the Most High's love and desire for his people, Israelites, to grow in righteousness, It's not simply punishment, but rather a form of loving correction, similar to how a parent disciplines a child. Listen, okay, the Lord disciplined us through slavery, uh, being whipped, and all the other atrocities we went through. Do you think not, in this earthly realm, as a father of children, you are not allowed to discipline your children if they really behave incorrectly? The Lord could have come out, could have spoken to us from the heavens and said, "My children, or my sons, my Israelite sons, please don't behave this way. Otherwise, I will be forced to thrash you, or first forced to hurt you." The Lord could have done that, but that wasn't going to work because Israelites are hard headed. So what did the Lord do? Put us into slavery time and time and time again. And that same bloodline, and the same, and children in general are rebellious. All right. And you see how the heathen behave. Esau doesn't have use the Bible in any shape or form. That's why they don't discipline their children. Hence the reason why their children, Edomite, so-called white people, and heathens, are the biggest rapists, biggest molesters, PDF files. They delete people, right? They do sick people when they delete people. It's not just self-defense. Oh, I smacked him and I knocked him out and he hit his head on the concrete, or I had to buck him with my strap, because he was running up at me and he had two other accomplices with him. No, Esau will do something gruesome. He'll shoot you out of the window just for target practice because you got brown skin. He'll do the same thing to a child that's brown, a woman that's brown. They don't give a shit. Then they'll probably cut you up into pieces and eat you. That's their nature. That's how they are. We've seen numerous videos online of Edomite children hiding heads of people they've deleted in their house, and their parents have had to call the police. Esau is sick. That's their nature. That's why they haven't been punished in a while. Hence the reason why they're like an undisciplined child. Hence the reason why they behave. Now they're going to go into slavery, these so-called white people and heathens. They're going to be disciplined. All right? Then after 1,000 years, we're going to delete these damn devils. Obadiah 1:18. Okay? So even in this earthly realm, discipline is necessary. We went the Most High, Yahweh Bashem Yashai, our Heavenly Father, and our Heavenly Father put Yahweh Shai through, our King Yahweh Shai is a sacrificial lamb. And he had to do that. His only begotten Son. And it pleased the Most High to bruise the Lord Yahweh Shai, man. So how much? Do you think not that we Israelites are going to get disciplined also by the Most High? So how much with our earthly father, our dads at home, our mums at home? Discipline is necessary for correction. It's necessary for correction. All right. If a man have a stubborn and rebellious son which will not obey the voice of his father or the voice of his mother, and that when they have chastened him will not hearken unto him, then, verse 19, then shall his father and his mother lay hold on him and bring him out unto the elders of his city and unto the gate of his place. Verse 20, and they shall say unto the elders of his city, this is our son, this is our son, this is our son, is stubborn, this is our son is stubborn and rebellious. He will not obey our voice. He is a glutton and a drunkard. All right, so they've got a son that don't want to work. He's probably, waking up at 12 o'clock every day, and then after that, eating food, tons of food, and not like really putting any work in, on the farm or whatever the chores he's got to do, not really earning his meals, and therefore, and then being drunk all the time, probably drinking the house wine or the liquor that's his dad, whatever, whatever term is, he brewed at home, chilling out with the homies in the fields or whatever, just, they all meet up at, I don't know, 2 o'clock in the afternoon every day, get drunk, then he comes home, then he eats again, then he goes to sleep. He doesn't want to listen. His parents have tried time and time and time and time and time again. He will not obey. He will not obey our voice. He is a glutton and a drunkard. All right. Verse 21. And all the men of his city shall stone him with stones, that he die. So shalt thou put evil away from among you, and all Israel shall hear and fear. This is the reason why discipline is done. This is the reason why a rebellious child or rebellious son is deleted, because it removes the cancer. So the infection or infestation of that cancer, that rebelliousness, is removed out of Israel. out of away from our people. Now, if a woman does the same, she does adultery. She's a married woman. She lays down with a man. All right, that woman needs to be deleted, and also the man that laid with her, because that's cancerous. That's a problem that has to be deleted. Leviticus 20:13. You got a momo. All right, a bundle of sticks. FAGGOT. Right, or a female version of that. You're supposed to delete them, remove the cancer, because it's a foul behavior. Someone in the ancient world switching, walking around with lipstick on and shit. A man with a hairy chest and a beard. Come on, man. You delete that motherfucker. All right? And the same with a rebellious son, you know? And remember, people in the ancient world were way bigger, stronger, and more about it back in the day. Let's go to the article again. Where is it? There we go. Now, this girl, Sarah Sharif, let me find the news. Sarah Sharif, who I believe this young child here, only Lord knows if this is a real picture. It looks like a real picture, allegedly. And I mean, that's Sarah Sharif. You know, sometimes you got to be careful. Even the picture looks kind of AI to me. But these are real situations. They do happen. But sometimes Esau can use his magic tricks with AI to create a certain narrative as well. Where you are basically got your head. They're basically tying everybody's hands behind their back when it comes to employment, finances, health, access to healthcare, right? And now you can't discipline your children. Your children can use this law of not being smacked anymore. And we've seen children trying to divorce their parents. We've seen children trying to get lawyers involved, get police involved. They say to their dad, buy me that iPhone or whatever. If you don't buy me that iPhone, I'm going to call the police saying that you're smacking me. They'll do shit like that. And you got demonic children that behave that way. And this is just going to happen. It's going to put more strain and stress upon a household where you can't discipline your children. So this is going to be anger that's going to be that you can't release on your children, which will be released in other ways. So this is basically it's going to be pent up violence that's going to come on the street. All right, and get more and more people locked up as well. It will destroy households even more. It's like banning guns, firearms. The criminals that actually do the crime still have access to those guns, but the law-abiding people that buy guns for protection in parts of the world where it's legal, they're the ones that are going to get affected with a firearm ban, and hence the reason the people that you want to ban smacking on children, they do it lawfully to discipline their children, and there's nothing wrong with that. All right, this ban is supposed to be against weirdos, PDF files, people that abuse their children. But really, it's going to affect the law-abiding person, because the person that wants to abuse their children, they're going to abuse their children no matter what. And they're going to play mental games with them and physical games with them. Shit, they might tie them up all day. It won't let them go without. And then they'll say, okay, if you tell anybody, this is going to happen to you in your sleep or whatever. They can do anything, man. There's something called grooming as well. So this is really just going to affect the law-abiding people. And this young child, right, she was abused by I think her father was Pakistani or Middle Eastern, right? Her mother was an Edomite from Poland. Because a lot of these Polish girls here in the UK, they're like men of color, and they usually marry a lot of so-called black and brown men here in the UK. I'm sure that's everywhere. A lot of Russian, and some of these Russian and Polish girls are quite attractive. And you see these motherfuckers in married, God damn, it's like Beauty and the Beast, you know? These Russian and Polish chicks, boy, shit, some of them are hot. Anyway, this is her name was Sarah Sharif, And let me see if I can play the video if it works.
They had dressed her in Mickey Mouse pajamas, and she had a quilt over her, but no mother should.
Yeah, I think that's her grandma speaking, Sarah Sharif's grandmother, and she's speaking Polish or Russian. I think it's Polish. Polish, yeah.
Should see something
Translation is
like
it.
that. One of her cheeks
Oh, it's the mother, Sarah's mother, Olga Sharif. Olga. Olga is some Polish or Russian name.
was swollen, but no mother. They had dressed her in Mickey Mouse pajamas, and she had a quilt over her, but no mother should see something like that. One of her cheeks was swollen, and the other side was bruised. Even now, when I close my eyes, I can see what my baby looked like.
It wasn't Sarah. She was entirely changed and bruised. If someone hadn't told me it was Sarah, I wouldn't have believed it.
Yeah, I mean the father was a piece of shit, man. He used to use the actual cricket bat. If you don't know what a cricket bat is in different parts of the world, especially America, Google it, cricket bat. All right, it's a British version of baseball. The bat is slightly different. They used that on this child, and she must have been like 9 or 10 years old, you know. And the stepmother, who was another Middle Eastern or a so-called Middle Eastern woman or whatever, Arab, Ishmael, Elam or whatever, she would join in to beat this child. So at the back of this, they're trying to ban physical punishment. You know, obviously, this wasn't discipline on this child, man. They just basically deleted this child, man, in the most horrific way. You know, and especially with young girls, with the fathers in the house, you don't really have to hit them, man. You know, you just raise your voice, look at them in a serious way. It goes in that direction. And if they do have to be smacked, you know, if you've got a lady in the house, like a mother, I'll send to give him a little smack, man. The man's hands are going to be a little bit powerful for a young girl, but you know, but for the most part, discipline is necessary with boys and girls, but it has to be done in a correct way. It's not your child is not a punch bag. Your child is not someone you can let your aggression out on because you had a bad day at work. Your child is your child. It's a human being. All right, it's your seed. So you discipline them in the correct manner. All right. And in the ancient world, for a child to be deleted, I'm sure those parents must have tried for months or maybe even years to get their son or daughter on the right track. And if they don't behave, what happens? Hey, man, the elders deleted them. So you remove the problem, remove the cancer, you know. But anyway, Hegelian dialectic, problem reaction solution, you know. But ultimately, not disciplining your children, it leads to chaos. All right, school shooters, you know, children that stab up cats and dogs, and you know, end up deleting somebody, you know, that you know has more popularity in school than them or whatever. These things, that anger, that discipline, that when it's not, you know, put under control, like a rebellious horse, you know, you have to control or train to control. You don't put them under control. What happens? You know, like I mentioned, it's like having an uncontrollable horse in a china shop, just bucking and bucking, you know, or just like you know, just kicking everything, like a bull in a china shop. You know, you need to put the reins around it and control it. You know, and that has to be done in a correct way because everything you have to do in what? Is that scripture? 1 Corinthians 14 and 40. Let all things be done decently and in order. All right. The scriptures are a guideline how to, you know, deal with everything, man. Spiritually, physically, mentally, you know, financially, morally, in every single way, man. All right. Proverbs 22 and 6. Train up a child in the way he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it. And part of that is discipline. You don't hit your child because you haven't hit them in 6 months or a year. They're doing okay, you know, you leave them alone. All right. But you let them know what you expect of them too. All right. And then they'll remember that, you know, 2 years ago, they got, you know, 2, 3 years ago, you know, they got a good earful from you, as well as they remember, you know, the couple of smacks that you gave them too. So they're disciplined. So there's a balance in this thing, man. You can't, not completely discipline somebody. All right. And undisciplined children, where do they go? Straight to prison as well. Slovakia. Another page open. All right. All right. Let me see. Just read this bit here. Campaigners. Wales made any type of corporal punishment, including smacking, hitting, slapping, and shaking, illegal in March 2022, while Scotland introduced a similar ban in November 2020, but it is not completely outlawed in England and Northern Ireland. According to the Children Act 2004, it is unlawful to hit your child except where it is reasonable punishment. This is judged on a case-by-case basis. And that's sensible. Reasonable punishment, case-by-case basis. Other parts of places like Scotland and Scotland, they've completely outlawed it. I think, yeah, they have corporal punishment. Yeah, Wales and Scotland, England and Northern Ireland have not completely outlawed it. It's a case by case basis. Okay. Okay. They did a poll. 8 in 10 people, 82% aged between 18 and 24, believe it is unacceptable for a parent to use force, however slight, against a child. But these are 18 and 24-year-olds. They're Gen Zs. They don't want to be hit because they're still at that age where they can get smacked. And shit, even when I was 18, my dad could still give me a little smack around the ear. You know what I mean? Obviously he didn't, but I'm just saying at that time, I was still afraid of him. I think the smack started stopping when I was about 14. When your dad says to you, you got a beard on your face now, so that's it, I can't really smack you anymore. This is an increase from 64% of young adults who thought it was unacceptable when polled in 2023. See, there's a balance in this thing. You got a lot of bullies out there. We understand there's sick motherfuckers out there that hurt children that way, but disciplining your children, there's nothing wrong with it. The Lord Yahweh Shem Yashai has ordained it, all right, in the book of Proverbs, all right? You chasten your children. Show that you love them, What do parents always say? I don't hate you, son. I love you. This is the reason why, you have to do this. You have to do, you have to do what you need to do. And then you can do what you actually want to do. Do what you need to do. Then you can do what you actually want to do. Whatever your chores are, get them out of the way, do your homework. And then you can go and play ball all day or whatever, Start early, finish early. Whatever you got to, you know how it goes down, man. Discipline is necessary. All right. We've seen the world the way it is, in disarray. If you're in your 40s, 50s, 60s, you remember how young men were back in the day. All right. They were more disciplined. It was still chaotic, but it's not as chaotic as it is now, man. All right. All right. No father in the house, no discipline. You got an emotional 6 foot, 200-pound young man with female emotions, and that's a dangerous combination. All right. You got girls, having sex at the age of a very young age, in this country or other parts of the world, getting pregnant at a young age, and there's nobody to discipline the child when the child is born because the boy got the girl pregnant at a young age. He doesn't work. He doesn't do anything. He doesn't even have he doesn't even have no, stubble growing from his face. He doesn't even have facial hair. He's got peach fuzz. He's a young boy himself. It leads to wanton women, undisciplined women. undisciplined young lads, you know. Chastening your children leads to discipline, man. All right. Remember one thing: Yahweh Bashim Yashai, right, chastised us, and a lot of us are still getting chastised until the chariots come. So, all right, chastisement is a necessary requirement for discipline, for going the right direction. All right, you've got a car steering wheel, right? Do you not control that? You got horses in the ancient world or back in the day. Do you not control the horses with the reins? Do you not pull on them? You pull them, you whip the horse. Why? So the whole horse can be controlled. Same with the children. You know, they're uncontrollable when they're coming up. You're not going to whip them with a horse like you do a horse. You're not going to kick them or punch them, but you might shout at them. You might reprimand them. You might smack them with your bare hands on their bottom, on the back of the legs, depending on what they do and their age. It has to be done appropriately, but discipline is still necessary. All right. You've seen the condition of the world the way it is, with all the with the lack of discipline, the lack of morals, the lack of structure, spiritually, physically, mentally. The world is just in disarray, man. All right. That's why we are at that last generation, and these motherfuckers got no respect for their elders or anything like that. Back in the day, just 25 years ago, some of us would carry the bags of an older woman, to a house, or at least partly along the way, so she can go along her way, so she doesn't have to carry the bags all the way to her yard. You think these YNs do that today? Yeah, that's out the window. Anyway, I'm gonna leave it there. So chastisement is necessary. Proverbs 13:24 again. He that spareth his rod hateth his son, but he that loveth him chasteneth him betimes. All right. All praises to Yahweh, B'Hashem Yashai, B'Hashem Rakakadash. Chastisement is necessary, but it has to be done in the correct, disciplined, appropriate, lawful way, pursuant to the scriptures. Okay. What happened to this young child was a horrible situation. Okay. But only the Lord knows, because whoever perisheth being innocent, paraphrasing the scripture. All right. The way she was, it was not discipline. It's basically MURDER. That's what it was. But off the back of these undisciplined adults that take their pent up frustration out on young children, lawful people are going to suffer. That can't, that won't be allowed to be, they'll be held at ransom or held at gunpoint, so to speak, where, the children can say, okay, if you touch me, I'm going to call the police. Or if you don't give me my Xbox or whatever, man, whatever game console children play these days, if you don't give me this, don't give me that, you don't buy me these Jordans, you don't buy me that, I'm going to call them and tell them that you hit me, And they're going to make examples, whether it's real or fake, on camera of, adults being locked up for 6 months or whatever for hitting their child. And this is going to scare people even more. And also, on the flip side, this is going to lead to a lot of people taking the charagma, the CHIP as well. Why? It'll be some kind of a device put into the children to discipline them, to control their temperament as well, so the parents don't get into trouble. It could be something like that too. There's a whole bunch of avenues that Esau can go through to put the world on even more lockdown. All right? Prison planet. Anyway, all praise to Yahweh, B'Hashem Yashai, B'Hashem Rakakadash. Shalom.